Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm very excited to bring you a review for the new Transformers Generation Selects number 14, Generation 2 Megatron. This, believe it or not, is only the second Voyager that's ever been released in Hasbro Selects. The only other one being their very first one, which was also Megatron. So that character has that very distinct honor of being our only Voyager Selects toy. Now, the first Megatron was called Combat Megatron. He was based on an unreleased Generation 2 toy. This Generation 2 Megatron is based off of the more iconic, more widely known, and actually released G2 Tank Megatron, the green and purple one. Now, this toy itself is simply a straight redeco of the new Earthrise Voyager class Megatron. So if you're expecting a world of difference in the tooling or something very accurate to the original toy, well, you're going to be disappointed. This is purely just a fun redeco for people that like G2 stuff. Now, you may notice this review's coming earlier than a lot of you probably expect because the official release date for this guy is like February or something. But a fellow Transformers fan on the forums pointed out that an online store called CMD Store actually had this guy in stock right now. So I ate the shipping and just got him. They sell them for retail price, so I can't complain. And now I get to do this review for all you guys. So if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at the toy's packaging, then we'll open it up. We'll see everything that comes inside. We'll look at the instructions, and then we'll see Megatron himself in both his vehicle and robot modes. I'll be doing some comparisons today with the Earthrise Megatron and the Combat Megatron. And I might throw in a little cross-factional group shot while I'm at it. And then at the end of the video, I'll get my final thoughts. So this Megatron, he comes in your very standard War for Cybertron themed selects box. Same old graffiti on the front, branding. Get the sticker here that just has his name and number, his class, legal stuff, more legal stuff, branding, rest of the picture, nothing. Wish they'd mix it up a little bit on these. Okay, I've gone and broken the seal, so let's open this up. It's got your standard inner lining for your War for Cybertron stuff. And in here is our Megatron himself. You can see all of his accessories. You get down to the bottom, you get your instructions. So I don't expect anything different from the standard Earthrise stuff, just, it doesn't say Earthrise on it. But, shows you where to store his little sword cannon thing, how to transform him to his tank mode, all that fun stuff. And that's really it. Fairly simple Voyager. Alright, here we have Megatron in his tank mode, and I gotta tell you guys, this really takes me back. The Generation 2 Megatron toy was one of my favorite toys growing up. And sadly, I never owned one. Best I ever got was borrowing one from a friend for a little bit. But yeah, I was always obsessed with this thing, and I've always wished for like some sort of a reissue or like a modernized update. Now this, I can't really call this that, right? It's a G1 Megatron that's just colored like the G2 toy. So while it's a really nice nostalgia kick, I'm still standing by and waiting for Hasbro to, make the hopefully inevitable actual G2 Megatron toy. But, I don't know, I may be holding my breath a long time. Anyway, this tank looks fantastic. And something about the unified color scheme makes it look bigger than it is. I can't really describe it, but just the fact that the treads are all the same, or, well, I guess the tread casing is all the same color as the rest of it, just makes it look really bulky. And look at the details on this thing. I mean, they went nuts with the camouflage. They got the nice orange highlights here on the guns, the shoulders, the kneecaps. They got the little dot pattern, which some of you may recognize from the original. And got the good old G2 Decepticon symbols, which this always gets me tickled when I see that. Takes me back. He still has the conspicuous feet hanging off the back, and the fact that they're like pretty much the only gray part on him, if you don't count little hinges. They do stand out a lot more than I wish they would. But, this thing is the Earthrise Megatron, for better or for worse. Has all the strengths and weaknesses of that mold. The turret still turns just fine. Get a full 360 out of that, which is nice. The wheels, I'm having a hard time getting this guy to roll well. And I'm not exactly sure what it is, because everything's lined up like it should be. But they're not making contact with the ground very well. kind of hear a bit of a dragging there, which I don't like. Still got the little head poking out. Hello. And yeah, overall, I really like this. It's a lot of fun for me, and takes me back to the yesteryears of elementary school and bright, loud 90s toys. I'm telling you, for any of the younger viewers here, loud, obnoxious colors were just all the rage in the 90s, and maybe late 80s too. Alright, here we have our group shot with the regular Earthrise Megatron and Combat Megatron from Selects. If you don't know, Combat Megatron is actually a retool of the Siege Megatron mold, not the Earthrise one. So he's actually got quite a few differences when it comes to the tank body. And I will say, I didn't really notice it too much when I did the Earthrise Megatron review, but honestly, the new tank is so much better. It really is. Look how broken up the treads are on this thing, big old gap. I'm starting to see why people hate H-tanks, because once you get a real-looking tank in here, they just kind of pale in comparison. So, yeah, I will say, as far as the vehicle mode, this mold is an improvement. I didn't really give it its due credit when I reviewed the first version, but yeah, definitely better. And this is what I was saying about like the uniform color scheme, right? Like this Megatron, he's gray in the middle, but then he's got black on the sides, and it just kind of makes him look smaller. Maybe because black, kind of tricks the eyes, and I think there's nothing there. This guy just seems beefier, even though it's the same mold. So I like it. I think the tank came out very, very well. Okay, now I'm going to transform this guy. I'm not going to show it on this review. If you do want to see the transformation, make sure to check out the Earthrise Megatron review, so I covered it there. Okay, now here's our robot mode. And again, despite it not being accurate to the original toy's, body type, I just love this thing. It does a very good job of tricking my mind into thinking I'm looking at something else, which, good enough. For $30, it's not too bad. And again, I love the colors on this guy. I love the orange highlights, the crazy green and purple camo. It's just fantastic looking. Look at this. So you got his little sword cannon thing here. I'm opting to use the cannon end of it because it just works a little better. For anyone that doesn't know, the original G2 Megatron, his weapons were a handheld rifle and a shoulder cannon. Now, unfortunately, due to the retooled backpack on the Earthrise mold, you can't mount a cannon up here on his shoulder anymore like you could the Siege one. So sadly, there's really no good way to recreate that original look. It's definitely a huge oversight in my opinion. I wish, at the very least, they could have just included like a cheap little adapter piece or something. Something that maybe plugs in that slot that just serves as like a little, 5mm hole, or maybe something that plugs in here and, bends around. It wouldn't have killed them just to include some cheap little piece of plastic. But sadly, they did not. I will say, as far as the colors and everything, the head gets this really nice metallic, like dark silver with a flatter dark gray face. It's got those awesome orange eyes. He's got the colored eyebrows, which I think... So he's got a band of purple over his eyes. Yeah, so it's not eyebrows, it's just purple over the eyes. So that's kind of cool. The purple hands, I think, look cool, though they are not actually accurate to the original toy. The original toy had the gray hands. And I kind of like the purple more. It makes them stand out. And I imagine they're purple just due to molding requirements, right? They probably came off of the same sprue as the cannon and all that. The legs, the feet, they all look nice. I will say the feet are actually pretty transparent. I'm not sure if you guys can see on the camera, but if you shine a bright enough light to them, you can see through them a little bit. So they're very, thin, or just not very deep dyes in the plastic. I'm not sure how that works. Let's see, from the back, it looks pretty nice. Get that nice G2 symbol. Very well, painted treads here. I just like it. I like everything about this, despite everything that it's not, right? Taking it for what it is, it's awesome. I try not to think about the fact that I just really want a proper G2 update. And here's another look at the other two Megatrons that I showed in their tank modes. Again, regular Earthrise and Combat Megatron. And I like the way the order worked out here because it's kind of a theoretical, canonical order. G1, G2, planned G2 upgrade. Never actually happened. And this is good. This is what I like seeing, variety. And I wasn't the biggest fan of the Earthrise Megatron. not because it's a bad toy in any way, but because it was just so similar to the Siege toy that I felt it was just kind of samey and unnecessary, right? I would have preferred seeing them do something different, take on a new form of Megatron. Maybe the Bomber Megatron, the Stealth Bomber Megatron. There are other bodies that they could have done updates on, or just do something else. Of course, I've already mentioned what I would have preferred to see is a proper G2 update. I think he would have worked best in the leader class, because the G2 form was a lot bigger, and then he could have paired off against Optimus. They could have been wave mates, right? Optimus and Megatron in the same wave. That's usually a good thing. Those waves usually tend to do pretty good when you got Optimus and Megatron in the same wave. Instead, we just got a second round of Astro Train and some repacks, so I'm very disappointed. Another thing I didn't like about the Earthrise toy, I didn't like the face and the head shape. It felt very off to me. It didn't feel like it really quite matched the cartoon or the toy, or, I just felt the Siege was better. Now, in the case of the G2 Redeco here, I think it works a lot better. It's not accurate to the G2 toy, but if you go back and look at the Marvel comics for Generation 2, it's pretty much dead on to how his head was drawn in those. And part of me wonders if that wasn't done on purpose, if this head wasn't tooled with a Generation 2 Redeco in mind. I don't know, I'm sure Hasbro will never say, but it definitely works better for this. So even though he's not accurate, I like this guy a lot more. He's more interesting to me than just another black and gray Megatron. I feel Hasbro's playing it too safe lately with being afraid to, do new looks and new forms for their characters. They're really, really sticking to that Generation 1 look. And I get it, it's iconic, but boy, you're going to get franchise fatigue real soon if they keep going this route. And based on some things I've heard with changes to copyright laws, that situation may even get worse. You may see even less variations in design and even smaller pools of characters to choose from, if what I've heard is true. But that's a discussion for another day. So yeah, really dig this. Of course, the Combat Megatron's also too. He has the mysteriously retooled head that looks like Minor Megatron's head, which makes me convinced that originally there was going to be a Minor Megatron, like pre-Decepticon Megatron, and they changed it to this for some reason. But he's still great for what he is, and having these two together is really, really awesome too. Right now we got our Gen 2 leaders together again after all these years. If you don't know, this is Titan's Return Laser Prime from the Toys R Us exclusive Siege on Cybertron set that sadly was a real pain to get for most people. I lucked out. This is back when Toys R Us was still a thing, of course. Again, like Megatron, he's not a perfect interpretation of the toy. He's actually a retool of Octane or Octone, but I will say he matches the look a lot better. He gets the shoulder pylons and the right chest and the sword and all that stuff. And his vehicle mode, though compromised by being a triple changer, is a lot more accurate too. So yeah, took several years between releases, but you can finally get these two and, act out your little battle scenes from your radical 90s days. It's also a bit of a testament to how much toys have shrunk in the last few years, because you can see that the Prime is quite a bit taller than this Megatron, which really should be the other way around. But this is just the new way of things, I suppose. And lastly, here's just a fun little shot of all of my current G2 cons redone. So we get Combat Megatron again, we get Thrilling 30 Dreadwing, and we also get the G2 Bruticus and Menasor from Combiner Wars. One thing to look forward to here very soon is the other Selects toy that was announced along with Megatron, which is a G2 Sandstorm, which is based on an unreleased Ramjet recolor from Generation 2 that was done up in like desert colors. What his potential relationship is to G1 Sandstorm, who knows? It's kind of like the whole G1 and G2 smokescreen thing, right? One was an Autobot, one was a Decepticon. Takara has gone and retroactively said that those guys are the same person, so I wonder if they'll do the same thing for this guy. I suppose only time will tell. So, yeah, I think that about covers everything. So as far as my final thoughts on this toy, for what he is absolutely fantastic. He, in my opinion, is just the better version of Earthrise Megatron. For what he isn't, of course, leaves a hole in my soul because I just really, really want a proper G2 update of this guy. But I will say, he pulls the look together very nicely. The colors are pretty much spot on. I love the orange eyes. You don't see orange eyes a lot, right? So that's pretty neat. And if you are trying to build some sort of a new G2 collection, he's going to be a must for that. At least until they come out with something better, if they ever do. So I recommend picking this guy up. He's one of the selects toys I've been the most excited about recently. And I think if you get him, you'll like him too. Of course, that is purely my take on the toy. Now, what's really important is what you all think of this new Megatron. Does he scratch that G2 itch for you? Does he bring back enough 90s vibes to make you go in on this purchase? Or is he just not quite there? Or maybe you just don't like G2. I know a lot of people, every time something G2 goes, they're like, oh, the colors, ugh. It's like, well, that's kind of the point. So, I don't know what to tell you if you don't like the colors. But, yeah, any and all feedback is always welcome in the comment section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this look at the brand new Transformers Generation Selects Generation 2 Megatron. That's a mouthful, huh? And with all that said, I will see you next time.